the parity in college basketball is just incredible these days. But we are starting to see a little separation with teams at the top. Today, again, with my college basketball analyst, Bryant Northern, we're talking college basketball, just a week in review. And as March Madness gets closer, let's see what teams at the top do we think can win it all. What's going on, Brian? How's it going, man?
Man, it's going great over here. We had like 70-degree weather yesterday in Indiana, man, so I can't
Right?
complain.
I got you. I mean, it's crazy all over the place. Usually it's 70 degrees here, and it kind of was yesterday, but it's been raining. I mean, we haven't seen sunlight in forever, so we're trying to figure it out here in Texas. Speaking Texas, college basketball, there's a team at the bottom of Texas in Houston are looking like the best team in college basketball, Brian. I mean, I know we've mentioned that a couple of times, but they're starting to kind of separate themselves from other teams, and a couple of them, I should say, Houston, Alabama. I know my K-State brethren are going to hate this, but KU is starting to separate themselves. So there's a couple of teams right now that are starting to separate themselves as far as who the best teams are in the country.
I agree with you. I really think now we're in the thick of March, and I think there's 10 good teams, really good teams, and then I think there's 3 or 4 elite teams. And the elite group is going to be your Kansas, your Houston, your Alabama, and I still kind of like Arizona there. I still think they're going to round it out. Some are going to probably go UCLA. I know Arizona State knocked off Arizona, but I still think in March they're going to be or late March, I should say, they're going to be a real problem. But I still love this Houston team with Kelvin Sampson. I think their bodies, I think their maturity, I think their discipline and their defense makes them the most elite, fully complete team in college basketball. Earlier this year, I didn't know if there was one team that kind of separated themselves from the pack. But right now, Houston is on an island by themselves. They are the overall best team in all of college basketball.
Right. Absolutely. I am going to give a little plug again to my K-State people. Look, a couple of weeks back, I talked about it. A lot of people talked about it, that K-State hit a wall. They were playing well, and then all of a sudden you lose 4 out of 5, and they weren't playing well. They've kind of turned the ship around and have got it going again at the right time. I just think it was one of those things where they literally hit a wall. They're playing good now. I think Kansas State can make another run, not another run, but can make a run and get to a Final Four. I think they have enough. They definitely have the coach. They definitely have the star power. It's just, do they have that third scorer? Do they have that guy, the unsung guy that does the dirty work? K-State has that, man. They got a chance to get to the Final Four.
I am not personally going to pick them to get to the Final Four, but in parity in the March Madness and all of the madness that is in March, they could absolutely get there. They have the coaching. They have the athleticism. They're a Sweet 16, Elite 8 type team for me right now. You got to win 4 games in a row in the NCAA tournament to get to that Final Four. And I am just right now, I don't feel confident enough to say that they are one of those teams that can win 4 in a row. So although the ability's there, the coaching's there, I think there are 3 or 4 other teams who I would think are more likely to get there and do that than them.
And there are other teams. Don't get me wrong. There's plenty of other teams that can make the Final Four. I just throw them in that batch. And again, as we've talked about many times, matchups are everything. Matchups are everything. And, K-State can present some problems. Now, you get a team with some size and some athletic ability that can cause K-State some problems. But K-State can match up with a lot of different teams. They got a chance to
I
do
don't
some
think
damage.
athletes is going to be their problem.
No.
I think a team that maybe isn't athletic, that shoots the lights out, that isn't afraid, that doesn't play tight, and that backdoors and cuts and executes, maybe kind of what we saw with St. Peter's, a team like that. I think that is really the team. If I'm Kansas State playing in the Big 12, you shouldn't be afraid of athletes. What you should fear is, What about a team who's going to cut and hold the ball and slow the game down and grind it out? That's the team who I think upsets a team like Kansas State or beats them in the tournament.
It's not the athletes that are the problem, because K-State is athletic. It's length. It's the athletic length that can be a problem for them. They got a few guys that are athletic, but they're big guys. They're somewhat athletic, but they're not. I'm talking about a lot of 6'8", 6'9" guys. K-State doesn't have a lot of those people. That's the type of athlete that I'm talking about, not just necessarily somebody's going to out-athletic them, because that isn't going to happen. K-State's one of the athletic teams in the country.
I think a dangerous matchup for them would be Iowa. I think a team who just can get hot and catch fire. I think Creighton would be a tough matchup for them. A team let's look at Virginia, who's a tough matchup for anybody. But when you hold the ball and you can shoot with 3 seconds left on the shot clock, control the tempo of a game, play the game into the 50s or even high 40s, I think that would be a recipe for disaster for a team like Kansas State, who probably wants to play the game in the 70s.
Sure, that'll be a recipe for anybody.
Right.
Iowa is a perfect example as we kind of shift gears. I mean, Iowa put it on IU this week. And that's after, I mean, you could kind of see it coming, though. IU coming off the super emotional win over the weekend at Purdue, big rival, and then coming home against an Iowa team that kind of needed that win. I think they were going to be in the tournament, but they needed that win to kind of solidify them getting into the tournament, and they smashed IU. And it's just what you said. They got hot, didn't miss any shots, and IU couldn't make them, and, just got run off the floor.
This is the overall problem with the Big Ten. The Big Ten has been a mess in late March. We saw Purdue hit a wall. Purdue peaked too early. I think you were spot on with them. Purdue has just peaked way too early. It's not bad games. It's not, this was just a bad matchup. Something is off with Purdue. I think they're going through Edey too much. They rely on him too much to save them. And I think the freshmen are struggling. I think Lawyer and Smith are struggling. They've hit a wall. And I think the best of Purdue we've already seen. I don't think they're going to get back there. I don't think they're a Final Four team. I think Zach Edey has to do too much for them to win. And when he can't do those things for them, the other players haven't stepped up. And then you look at IU. They have, 4 or 5 15-plus point losses. I mean, Northwestern, Iowa, Michigan State. This is a really inconsistent conference. You can, on paper, say Purdue's the best team, but Illinois has been inconsistent. Purdue's been inconsistent. Wisconsin was ranked, and now, are they a bubble team? Where's Wisconsin sitting right now?
Right.
They're going to be a very poor seed in that tournament. Indiana, they got 2 or 3 losses. I know they wish they could get back.
Absolutely.
The Big Ten has been really inconsistent.
Yeah, and it is. And I don't want to belabor the point and just hammer it home, but it's, I like Purdue. I think Purdue's a solid team, but anybody with some athleticism, man, and some size is going to beat Purdue. That's just going to happen in the tournament, man. It's just the way that it is. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just, hey, you can see it coming. Edey is awesome. Top 3 or 4 player in the country. But the drop-off between him and the next guy is so significant that causes a problem, man. That's where the big problem comes in with Purdue, is because you got this guy that's at this super high level, and then the next guy, and I'm not saying they're a bad basketball player, I'm just saying the difference between the two is so significant. And again, they're not the most athletic team. It's going to cause a problem in the tournament for them moving forward. Sweet 16 is about their peak, in my opinion. But, parity in college basketball, we could all be wrong. Moving to the ACC. Look, we didn't mention this team last week. I feel like we totally disrespected them. I'm glad you brought them up already, is Virginia. Mm-hmm. Virginia's really good. I don't see them making a Final Four. I don't think they're going to score enough. Although this year they do shoot the ball a lot better, and their offense is a lot better than in years past. But as far as just talent per se, I think they're missing a piece. I just think they're missing a piece. They're always going to be well coached. They're going to scrap. They're going to fight. They're going to play defense, and they're going to hold the ball. But when they don't make shots, and I don't mean that they have to be shooting the lights out. I'm just saying when they don't make shots, which a lot of teams do, they can lose to anybody. And that's not always the case when you have Final Four, Sweet 16 teams. I think Virginia is just kind of lacking that. And that might be one of the reasons why we didn't bring them up.
It's, we disrespected them. We talked about Duke and Miami being the best teams in the ACC. And how do we forget about Virginia? I think they are the most forgettable good team in college basketball.
Great point.
Talk to some of your friends. Say, who do you like? Who's really good in college basketball? No one talks about Virginia. They're a top 10 team, the best team in the ACC. And you don't really, there's nothing they do that's really sexy or stands out. They're disciplined. Coach Bennett does a great job. They have talent. They have some size. But I just think on paper, something's missing. And even with the eye test, when you watch them play, maybe it's a wing who really runs the floor. Maybe it's some shooting, consistent shooting. I do love their point guard. I love their point guard. They got their Armand Franklin kid as well from who transferred from IU. They have a couple guys that I really like, but I agree with you. Something is missing. I don't think they're a Final Four team right now for me because I think what I've seen overall is teams who play low-scoring games. The NCAA tournament, when teams play loose and catch fire, those teams can't rally and come back. A team like Virginia, that they slow the game down so much that if they ever get down 10 or 12 points against another disciplined team, they just get buried and they can't get out of it. So I think they're a Sweet 16, Elite 8 team at best. I would not pick them in my Final Four, but they are the best team in the ACC.
Absolutely.
For whatever that's worth.
For whatever it's worth. And I think that's a great point at the end because, again, I know we talked about the ACC, but just not good basketball this year, man. Just not good basketball this year. So moving on, we got to get into this Brandon Miller thing at Alabama. To me, I think the whole thing is nuts. We don't know exactly the truth. I think, hey, Bryant, me and you go to the club. I leave. I'm going to come back to either come pick you up or whatever the case may be. You text me to bring a gun or bring the gun that's already in the car. It's just this whole thing is a mess. It literally is a mess. And I'll be quite frank with you. Nate Oates, I'm not sure Nate Oates shouldn't be fired after what he did and said. That was absolutely despicable. Look, if you don't know what's going on, come together, get with your SID, come up with a statement and put it out. For you to just come out and say, well, the kid was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Are you insane? Somebody died. And that's all you can come up with? That's what your brain can come up with? I just have a hard time. And look, I'm not even sure that the kid is guilty because personally, I don't think he is. And you can't charge him for bringing something to somebody that somebody else did. I mean, because we could go on and on and on about that. I just think the way that Alabama handled it as a whole is absolutely disgraceful, just in my opinion.
It's an absolute reminder that this is a business and it's for profit.
100%.
Alabama should have either suspended, expelled, or delayed him returning until more facts, more evidence, more things were aligned before he should have played. But the best basketball team Alabama's ever had, ever, I think it's fair to probably say that. This team outside of outside of Houston is probably the second best team in college basketball.
Absolutely.
Brandon Miller is projected to be a top 5 pick, had 41 points the other night as they taunted or rest him during the game. He went for 41. So the dude's the real deal.
Yeah.
They are so profit focused. They're so focused on Final Four, win a title, win. Alabama is so money driven right now. And that college basketball is such a for-profit machine that they said, the hell with it. Let's play them. We want to win. So I think if that wasn't the theme, if that wasn't the goal, even if you don't kick him off the team and dismiss him permanently, you give him a break and you let everything die down and you gather all of the facts and then you come back later with an appropriate statement, and then you allow him to play again if the narrative fits that he should be allowed to. Correct. But instead they said, hey, let's win. We're on pace for a 1 seed. We got a chance to win this whole thing. What does that mean for Alabama? What does that mean for Alabama basketball? What does that mean for the university? That's dollar signs, baby. And they are doing this for profit. And it's I guess it's fortunate for him and their team and their fan base. But as someone on the outside looking in, I'm kind of mind blown. Like, really?
Yeah. Man,
really?
the whole thing about it, You are telling me that a game at the end of February against South Carolina on the road was more important than getting the narrative after kids on your team have been kicked off the team, arrested for murder, and another kid bringing that gun to the scene. You're telling me that that game in South Carolina was more important. You couldn't have just said, you know what, we're going to hold them out of this game until we get all the facts. And then once all the facts come out, hey, you know what? We did our due diligence and he's cleared. That, I think, is why people have a problem, Brian, is because Alabama didn't do their due diligence because you got the head coach saying, well, I didn't know that this happened. I didn't know that that happened. How in the world do you not? That to me, that's BS. There's no
Well,
way in hell that he didn't know what was going on. No way in hell.
let's look at it like this. I'm great to interview for this topic because a lot of people don't know my background, or some do. I was dismissed from the University of Louisville under Rick Pitino beginning of my senior year for forgery and theft of a forged instrument. I had stole a blank check and I lost my scholarship. No one got hurt. No money was ever lost. The checks were never cashed. And it made national news, and I was dismissed from the team for attempting to cash a forged check. I mean, it ruined my career. I lost my scholarship in the University of Louisville. This guy supplied a gun, and you can take his, obviously in Alabama law, it is not a crime.
Right.
But he supplied a gun to someone, a teammate, who then used that gun in a murder, a very heinous and disgusting murder. And he's still playing. This is the proof, and I've even debated this with some of my former teammates. Had I been an All-American, had I been a 16, 17 point game scorer, would Rick Pitino, would the University of Louisville have dismissed me, or would they have just suspended me or whatnot? I was an expendable player. Brandon Miller, you don't kick off a guy like him, right? At least
Right.
Alabama is saying they don't. Had he been a guy who was the 10th man on the bench or a walk-on or a scrub, they
He's
probably
out.
would have said, hey, you don't need to play. You're a distraction. But he's projected a top 5 pick in the draft. He just had 41. I mean, how many guys in college basketball can score 40 points in a game? Maybe
Correct.
5 guys in the entire college basketball world at a high level could
Right.
even one time in their career score 40 points, and he's one of them. So I think you're seeing his talent, I guess, in their opinion, outweighs the narrative, or the crime, or the situation, whatever it is. I can't say crime, it's not a crime. But had he been somebody else, had he been a role player, had he been a bench player, he wouldn't be there.
Absolutely. It's crazy. And again, I'm not even here to say that he's innocent or guilty because I don't know. Quite frankly, it's not my job to find out. So I just know that to get all the facts, to get yourself under control, Alabama could have said, you know what, until we know what's happening, we're going to sit him out. We're going to gather some more information because some new things came to light that maybe we're not comfortable with. And we need to talk to him. We need to talk to the police. We need to talk to the
And that's what they
DA.
should have did. I would have been okay with that.
Everybody.
I hate to see the kid's life ruined. I'd hate to see him lose everything because he has millions at stake, and nothing is more important than the woman's life who was lost. Let's clarify
Absolutely.
that. He didn't pull the trigger. He can say, "Hey, I didn't know he was going to commit a crime with that firearm or that weapon." But I think for Alabama as an institution, okay, they should have delayed him playing to honor what
At
took
least one
place. And
game, bro. At
at least
least
one game,
one
right?
game.
Yeah.
Come on.
And that's my issue with it is, wow, really? Like, you guys want to win that bad?
Yeah.
It's disgusting, man.
Yeah. But they're a really good basketball team. Having said all of that, Alabama's a really good basketball team, man, and
And
they've
he's a
got a
really good
chance.
player.
He's a really good player, and
He
they got a
might be
chance.
the best player that's not Zach Edey or Trace Jackson Davis. He might be the best player that's not a big because college
Yeah,
basketball's most dominant players right now are bigs. He's
right.
probably the best player that's not a center.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, they're good. All that aside, all that craziness aside, and again, I'm glad you brought it up, and I'm going to bring it up again. The most important thing out of all of that is the lady that lost her life. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing. But if we're just talking college basketball, Alabama's got a chance, man. They're really good. They are good. They are a good basketball team. They got a chance. Now, will all of this become a distraction down the road? Maybe. Possibly.
This isn't going away. And
No.
here's another thing. If you're her family, do you wait? There's probably an attorney, and if attorneys thinking money, which they are, right? They're probably saying, "Hey, he's going to go pro. He's going to be worth millions of dollars. We're going to file a civil lawsuit after he goes pro. This isn't really going to go away.
No, I don't
I
think
think the
so
more
either.
success they have, the more prepared they need to be to address this.
Yeah,
Because once they get 8 teams left, 4 teams left, national championship, what's the narrative going to be? He is the
correct.
most famous player, most popular, the most talented player on that team. You can't hide
Absolutely.
him.
No,
So the more success they have, the more this is going to be discussed and talked about.
absolutely. Absolutely. But bringing it back to basketball in the SEC, I was going to say Kentucky's got it going. Kentucky has hit their stride. Kentucky is playing well. And then on senior night against Vandy, they lose. I can't figure Kentucky out. I literally can't. They've got all this talent. And again, they started hitting their stride, Brian, at the right time. And then Vandy comes to town, and you can't beat Vandy. And I don't want to hear about some guys that were out. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. 9 guys on Kentucky are more talented than the top 9 guys that Vandy has, and you would take all 9 before you took one player from Vandy. And you're
Let's
telling
ask
me
the
you
fans
can't
this.
win?
Let's ask the fans this. We're not UK fans, obviously. We're almost anti-UK fans in a sense. We can respect the talent, but
Right?
let's be honest. We're never rooting for Kentucky to do well. I love watching some of their talent. I've followed Malik Monk and Devin Booker and Jamal Murray. I mean, I have followed their talent, but I'm never overall rooting for UK to have success.
Yeah.
But let's ask the fans. They beat Tennessee twice. They beat Florida, and then they lose at home on senior night to Vandy. You can't have it all sometimes. You got to pick. Would you rather them have beat Vandy and then have lost to Tennessee one time? You ask an Indiana fan, you beat Purdue at Purdue. We swept
Right.
them for the first time in almost, 30 years?
Right.
Now we lose to Iowa or we lost to Northwestern. What would you rather have? Beat Northwestern and lose to Purdue? So in the parody of college sports, sometimes there's just going to be those, what happened? What game? Who was that? Almost every team, except for Houston and a couple of teams, every team has had those nights. UConn has had them, right? IU's had them, Purdue's had them, UK's had them. Every team, Arizona just lost to Arizona State. They weren't supposed to lose that game. Every team has seemed to have those hiccups, a few more than the others, where you're like, who is this team? Kansas State hit their wall. So I think you just have to pick and choose. You lost to Vandy, but you beat Tennessee. You lost to
Right.
Vandy, but you beat um, Auburn. So you have to pick. We're going to lose some. Which ones would you rather lose? And I think IU fans will tell you, hey, we're glad we beat Purdue. If we had to lose to someone, we'd rather it be Iowa. Maybe
I
not
mean,
necessarily by 18 or 20 points at home, but you beat Purdue, and that's a win. Yeah, you lost to Iowa, but we'll take the Purdue win. Kentucky will take that Tennessee win. They'll take that Auburn win, and you lose to Vandy. It's not the worst thing in the world to lose to Vandy. It sounds like it,
oh, no,
but
it's the worst thing in the world. Going into March, it's the worst thing in the world, bro.
don't tell that to Jerry Stackhouse, man. Don't tell that
You
to Jerry
I
Stackhouse.
mean, Vandy is not a very good basketball team, and that's putting it lightly. It's the worst thing in the world for Kentucky. At the beginning of March, going into March, and you can't win at home against Vandy, that's not a good sign, man. That
Senior
is
night's
not a good sign.
overrated. Senior night's overrated because it's so emotional. There's always room for a letdown.
You're right.
Just like in the NBA, when they do ring ceremonies of the team who won before, do you know most of the times they lose those games?
Sure.
Most
Too much
NBA teams, when
emotion.
they give because it's such an emotional high. Senior night's an emotional high. You're supposed to win, but I bet you there's probably a stat too on even covering point spreads. I bet you for the sports bettors out there that most teams on senior nights who should win, I bet you they don't even cover. They might even win. I bet you they don't even cover that point spread because I think there's just so many ups and downs from an emotional standpoint of your last home game ever for that school. So I think
Right.
there's room for a letdown.
I mean, and you're right. You're right. There is room, but hey, man, go win a basketball game. You go win a basketball game against a team that is extremely inferior to you,
They
and
won
that's
5 of their
no,
last 6, man. I like where they're at. I don't like that loss, but they've won like 5 of their last 6. I still think that this UK team is dangerous.
I
They're
believe so
dangerous.
too. I think so too. That's the whole thing. That's the thing that I keep saying is like I can't figure them out because they're
I
winning
think they're
some
the third best
games.
team in the SEC. It's Bama, Tennessee. I actually think Kentucky is the third best team in the SEC, and
See,
I wouldn't want to play them. Even if
I
I
don't
was a
want to play
2,
them
3, or 4
either.
seed, I don't want to play them.
But I can't say that the third best team, man. You can't beat somebody twice and then say that they are better than we are. And
Who's
as
the
much
who's the third best team then?
Tennessee,
No,
I
it's
gotta put
Alabama
Kentucky
then
ahead of them.
Tennessee.
I
It's
gotta put
Alabama.
Kentucky ahead of them. Kentucky beat Tennessee twice. They
Oh,
beat
so
them
you think
twice.
Kentucky's the second best team in the SEC?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh
And you know my
wow.
mouth is just burning on fire when I say that. But
Oh wow.
if it was an upset and they beat them one time, okay, you know what? Great. Kentucky's better. But when you go to
They're
their
better than
place,
Tennessee in that matchup, but I don't think
that's what
overall
matters
they're
though.
better than Tennessee.
But that's what matters. If we have to play, if I'm better than you, that's
Well, they
all I
don't have
care
to
about.
play each other again unless they're in the SEC tournament. For the NCAA perspective, I think they're the third best team in terms of
Mm.
seeding or who's the overall third best team or the top teams. I do think Tennessee's body of work is better than Kentucky's, although
And
they might. That's a really bad matchup for Tennessee.
it's horrible.
I think that Kentucky is. I still think Tennessee is better than them now, not head to head, but I think Tennessee is going to obviously get a higher seed and that they have a chance to go further than Kentucky in the tournament. I would like to rank Kentucky still at that third spot, even though they beat Tennessee head to head twice.
Gotcha. Well, let's wrap it up with this. Um, you know, we've talked Big 12 a lot. But what we really don't talk about, and again, this is going to make my K-State people mad, is how good is Kansas? I mean, you tell me. I see them all the time. And everybody sees them all the time. I think Kansas is really good. I think Kansas is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. I think they're really good. I think they're playing really well right now. They've got something. They got enough holdovers from their team last year that won it all that are helping newer guys this year. Tournament play gets a little tricky for new guys. I just think Kansas with Bill Self and a lot of people, they underestimate how good a coach Bill Self is. I think Kansas is lined up to possibly win this thing again, man.
Grady Dick,
Yeah,
he's the real deal. Isn't he
yeah,
fun to watch?
he can
He's
play.
so fun to
He
watch.
can play.
The kid's he's going to be a pro. He's
Yeah,
probably a top 20 pick. I really like to watch him play. I think they got a special player in him. Kansas fans, if they're watching, you're only going to get him for 1 year. Um, they're for me third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. They're
okay,
somewhere between 3 and 6 for me overall. They're going to be a 1 seed,
sure.
unless yeah, they're going to be a one
They can be a
seed.
1 seed. Yeah,
If you had asked me a month and a half ago, I would have said they were the second or third best team in the Big 12. They hit a kind of a little bit of a bump, and I was like, I'm not really sure who
they
this
did.
Kansas team is. They seem like they were going to kind of teeter totter between like 10 to 15, and then boom, they're right back. Bill Self has them rolling again, which helps your argument earlier. You said he's the best coach in college basketball.
I
This
believe
type of
it.
season, after losing what he lost, helps your argument. He looks like he could be the best coach in college basketball right now because this team isn't supposed to be what they are right now.
No, no.
They're not
no.
supposed to be.
I mean,
This
we
is
thought
supposed
they
to
were
be a
going to be
top
good.
20 team,
That's
but
right.
is this really supposed to be a top 5, top 4 team?
That's right.
No, and he's helped get them guys there.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is that what got them going, they had lost 3 games in a row. They go to Kentucky and they win. And then from then on out, they have hit their stride. I
So it
mean,
was a 3-game streak.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
oh
they had a
yeah,
three
yeah. They
game
lost
skid.
three
They lost
games in
three
a
in a row.
row,
Yep.
and then they hit their stride. And the thing is that they win those tough road games, man. Now you're going to win the
Well, they
games
can
at
get down
home.
15 and come back and beat you by 10. That's a
Yeah,
really special team. They can
yes.
be down 15 and come back and beat you by 10.
They're tough on the road, and I think all of that comes from number one, they have a tough point guard. Number two is coaching. Is that look, we're not out of it. Dig in, figure it out. Let's figure it out together. More importantly, and they do that. They win those tough road games, man, and make the plays at the end of games that a lot of college basketball teams struggle to make. You know, the
The
top
Baylor
tier
game
teams.
for me taught me who they were. When I watched Baylor get them down by 15 to 20 in the first half and then they rallied back, and I was like, okay, this is something kind of special because this is
Yeah,
not a weak Baylor team.
nope,
This is a really impressive comeback.
absolutely.
Very, very impressive. So
Yeah.
they won me over with that game. And any doubt I had at all in Kansas, I was like, okay, they're the best team in the Big 12. They confirmed it. Baylor fell apart, but they fell apart because Kansas made them fall apart. Like this Kansas team is the real deal.
Got it.
And they
Absolutely.
weren't the real deal 2 months ago, but they peaked at the right time versus a Purdue. This Kansas team has peaked at the right time. They are built to win the national title again.
But that's how you do it. You get a team, you put it together, and then you just start building. I mean, Bill Self is a master at doing that. He's an
Mhm.
absolute master at doing that, man. Well, again, man, I appreciate you taking the time today. Everybody out there has been super supportive, man. We're starting to get a lot of following. People love the
Good.
show. So we're just going to keep on doing it, man. College basketball will end soon, and we'll just start talking pro basketball. We'll just keep talking basketball from here on out, man. Like I said, a lot of people are following. A lot of people like you, Bryant. So I appreciate you taking the
Thank you, man. I
time
appreciate
and
it.
spending some time with us. So thank you guys again. Remember, if you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, follow, leave comments. More importantly, leave even if you hate it. Tell us you hate it, man. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys, and thank you, Bryant.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you.